a minute.
In a closet with a TV right here.
And now part 2 of our discussion on life and music with Las Vegas composer, recording artist, and educator, Noah Avery.
So we've talked about like where like your creativity comes from and stuff. I was just wondering real fast, since we've mentioned Buddhism numerous times in this show, do you feel that your Buddhist trainings and stuff has any impact on like how you write music? Like the method of writing it and what you write, or does it have nothing to do with it and you're just like, I'm just a person, I write music?
Oh, it's got everything to do with it, lyrically and kind of how I look at the music itself. I'm interested in creating spaces.
Right.
Like I want to create like an environment, a sonic environment. And so on Roundwood with the binaural beats, there's extended sections that if you play them for most people that are just consumers of music, they'd go, why am I listening to this for 2.5 minutes?
Right.
Because it is just ambient.
Mm-hmm.
But the Buddhism informs the music itself and the lyrics profoundly. The Unnamed Road with Nothing Lasts Enough for Me is pretty much my mantra is nothing lasts enough, because I want to hold on to it so desperately, and I can't ever seem to keep a grip on it. And then facing death. Luckily, I already had a long history of reading and studying Buddhism. That is in itself a huge connection right there, and realizing the impermanence of life.
That's right. I was just going to say it's a subject that we discuss a lot. Kilo and I both have our own connections to and history with Buddhism, and I always have more of a Taoist than anything else. But Taoism and Zen Buddhism is there's really no difference. There's one is one is a development of the other. And anyway, I liked one thing you had said about meditating, which really resonated with me, is that you could, because you're ADD, you couldn't meditate for years. And that was me, like, because I misunderstood what meditation was, right? Like I always thought like you had to shut your brain down, right? Just silence your mind. I'm like, that's fucking impossible. It's absolutely impossible for me to do that unless I get really drunk and pass out. And then,
I smoke enough.
Shut your brain down.
Exactly. And I don't drink anymore. So, there's that option's gone.
Right.
So, but anyway, joking aside, when I realized that that an actual effective meditation, it's not shutting your brain off. It's just knowing where your brain is, being there. You know what I mean? That's and the music. I listen to music a lot when I'm meditating, and it's always some sort of trippy, dippy, hippie, ambient. Brian Eno hanging on a D minor for an hour and a half.
Airports.
But I mean, the bees just do that, but anyway, I just love that you point that out, because pretty much every musician I know is some version of ADD, and lots of people that are some sort of Buddhist or some sort of Eastern philosophies, and that is a common thing, is that the misunderstanding that of our own brains and the inability to shut them off,
right? And it's such a profound realization too when you have it. And musicians often have it separate from any religion or spirituality, but who is watching your mind racing?
We just talked about that today earlier when I was talking to Bob. I said sometimes when I'm enjoying my extracurricular activities, I always think like, wait, who is the thinker of the thought? Like I was talking about ADHD, and I was like, you have those shit thoughts that just come at you and you're like, go away. And then I finally have gotten to a place where when I'm enjoying myself and meditating and whatever, I'm like, wait, I didn't think that thought. That thought came here. So who's the one thinking those thoughts? Because I feel I'm the observer of the thoughts, but something else is putting them there. Right. Yep. And I think meditation is a great way to kind of find your place within that balance of creating it? I'm really deeply influenced by Rumi, who is a Sufi poet, which is actually just a mystical branch of
uh, Muslim. But it's so very different because it's very much about a personal connection.
Right.
But so much is that watching, and who is the watcher and who is the thinker, and are you one of them? Are you both of them? Right. And again, it comes back to what Bob said about the actual exercise is one of observation. Right. And realizing what your mind is. And if you can get to that point where you can become the watcher, then the power of negative emotion, the power of negative life experiences dissolve, right. Even if it's only for a second.
Right.
And then the trick is kind of like with music, it's connecting those seconds. Now I can do it for 2 seconds. Now I can do it for 3 where I'm no longer the thinker. I'm going watching the show, so to speak. And music is like that, you know. Yeah. You want to perform in such a way that you don't ever want to pull the audience out with something crummy, you know, or something that doesn't sound good. And you can't always start at that point, but you may have a thing here and a thing here that are happening.
Right.
And then you gradually start to connect these moments together until the whole becomes something special.
And your note about being the observer, Kilo, your point about being the observer of your own mind, and like musical performance, like you say, like the best live performances I have ever been a part of. And actually one of them was just this weekend. I had a phenomenal gig this weekend. It was beautiful. My band Shoe is a real kind of jammy. You would like them, because I got 4 Fish fans in my band. You know what I mean? So it's like me and 4.
Do they all have dreadlocks or?
We're all a bunch of hippies, man. But we do a lot of improv. Anyway, the point is that when you get into that space, and they're great. I mean, my friends are phenomenal musicians. So this is a really great band, and it's a lot of fun to play in. And when you get in that they're just the right gig, and you're not, basically there's no thought. I'm not sitting there going, I'm not listening. I'm existing within the music. I'm not listening like, what's Todd going to play on bass now? And what's the drummer doing? Right. And I better react to that snare hit. You know what I mean? It's not that at all. It is It is being present in that, and then and observing yourself reacting, instinctively to the music happening around you. You know?
Oh God, yeah. I have literally tripped out in the middle of performing because you realize it's happening, and then you can really kind of mess yourself up because I'm sitting there going, man, my hands are getting it. And then I'm like, oh, my hands. And then all of a sudden my hands, turn to mush. But yeah, that is it's just a fun thing. It is. Once you just become the flow, it's just
I was going to say the flow. That's all.
Yeah.
Right.
And it exists everywhere in sports, the great athletes, once you have a mastery, you can get there. I think what a lot of younger musicians think that they can get to that point, but to be at that point, you have to have the proficiency to where you're not required to be thinking very hard about what you're doing. Meaning, thinking so hard about getting these notes out right. You're not gonna get there with that.
Get it. Yeah.
Right. You have to get to a point where the notes come out. That's not even a question. And then you can enjoy the notes coming out.
Right on, man.
Yeah.
I think a good example, Bob, would be the song we're working on right now, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, if you think of it logically of how it was made, it is a thorough shit show, right? It is a shit show. Because, for instance, when I needed him to track more guitar parts and other things, I forgot to send him the version that I had already been working on. So he's tracking to the original version. It's not the same at all. And yet then I put it in there and it's perfect. And then I say, give me vocals.
It shouldn't have worked.
He screamed random vocal things into the mic. And then I put it in
craziest vocal track I ever did. That was crazy.
I put it in I pitched it like, I detuned it like 6 half steps up. And then it was like exactly what I wanted. Like it just, and if I take it out, it's just not the same song. You don't hear it as singing because it has reverb right on the channel. So it makes it kind of feathers it out. But it's like we did not do any of this purposefully. There's a vocoder on a guitar because it was late at night and I was having my fun time that I do.
That's right.
Sure.
So,
Right.
He means he was high.
I feel you.
I don't know, Bob.
Thank you,
Can I talk about that on YouTube? I have no idea. Whatever.
Talk about it all the
You're
time.
in LA, right, Kilo?
Okay, cool. So when I was super high, like always, I work on music in the flow a lot, right? So I just kind of came back one day and I was like, wait, why did I do this? And it just sounds right. Like there's a vocoder on a guitar. There's like 3 weird layers of guitar, like everything in this song that sounds great. It's just
it is a bunch of magical mistakes. It really is.
There's a fucking delay on the bass group, like the group that has the bass and the kick and the higher kick. There's a little bit of a delay directly on that grouping, not even sent to it. Yet when I take it away, it sounds like trash. And I'm like, I don't remember me putting that there and making it sound like that. And it doesn't sound like that. If you listen to it, you don't realize it. But it's like, why? You know, so like this song especially is just the flow, because if you explain it to an artist or a producer, they'd be like, "No, don't ever do that again." That's idea.
Sure. And like every one of those tracks I recorded for you were all like one take. I whipped them off like that. I didn't even think about it. It's the same.
All right, settle down, Bob. All right. I just, they just came out of me.
I mean, they're not that great. No, it's just my point is I wasn't putting any thought into it. I was just like, all right, cool, guitar part, boom.
Right. We both weren't putting any thought into it.
Exactly.
I mean, and we haven't explained it to him very much, but we took a song. I have been mixing and mastering for him for quite a while now, and we're doing an older album of his with older songs, and so we have Zen Seeds and then the new one that's coming out. But we were working on this, and then I called him one day, and I was like, "How much of this can I change? How different can it become?" And he's like, "Do whatever you want, bro." And then like I did my nighttime routine of being high and touching my computer, and like it literally just morphed into this like weird EDM guitar
that's crazy
jam banger, and it's just like, where the fuck did that come from out of this one song? It's not the same thing. So it's like I fully agree with what you're saying about music. When you're in that state of flow, it's like you can't push the wrong button. There is no wrong button. All of the buttons were a wrong button, but it isn't the wrong button.
They're all right.
So I think it was like the famous Miles Davis quote. What kind of, someone was trying to ask, jazz theory stuff. What kind of scales do you use? He said, I use the chromatic scale.
Right. Any
note play with conviction.
That's right.
Is the right note.
Just like our newest thing, we're working on a hip hop beat right now, and Bob in the email saying what key it's in. He's like, well, it's kind of in E, but it's also in D flat. And I'm
it's got a D sharp in it. It doesn't make any sense. That's the thing.
Right,
Like, there is no scale that has there's no real scale that has D sharp E in a row.
It sounds great.
They just don't do that. But
it's funny. I taught songwriting and theory. I mentioned earlier, and the kids and even the older adults and musicians I taught, they had this idea that the theory and rules of music were somehow in place and we write within them. But that's not what we've done.
Absolutely.
Composers and great bands write music, and then we look at it and go, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
What did they do? And we do that so we can then imitate it to our best and best of our ability.
That's cool. And I like that you say that, because I didn't know that others did that, and that's exactly how I've always worked. And especially if I have to collaborate with someone, and now I work Kilo on everything now, and he's always asked me, "What key is this?" And I'm like, "Fuck, I don't know. I'm playing." You know what I mean? Like, I know theory, so I can look at it and I go, "Okay, that's a D mixolydian or whatever," because because I know modes and shit. But I'm not thinking about that when I'm writing it. You know what I mean? Like I'll reinterpret it after the fact. So that's cool. That's cool to say that. But we should circle back, I think, to Noah's music. We're talking about our music. I'm doing it too, man. We're just talking about music.
I don't know. I think this will probably be a 2-part episode. So
maybe
you might be in the second half of the episode by now. So don't mind what I just said. You already know.
That's funny. Anyway. Well, and on that in that train of thought, you're talking about Noah's albums. One thing I was thinking about with the with your personal journey, your health journey, with cancer and how that relates to the music, and you've got the 4 albums. And as I point out, each of the 4 albums sort of chronicles a different space that you're in your personal life and your mental state and your health and everything, right? What impact have the albums had on you and the people around you, people in your life? You know what I mean? Like, how does you make an album like, this is where I am in 2020, right? And then you release it, the world can hear it, but your family hears it too. You know what I mean? The people, your friends hear it too. How has that impacted your relationship with them and with your disease?
Well, it's, I've talked about, we don't usually delve deeply into real musical concepts and things like that with, family and friends that aren't musicians.
Right.
But we look at the personal nature of it. And it's cool with people I know because some of them know what it's actually about, and it's not important to know what a song's actually about, but some of them know and can pick it up and go, wow, okay, I'm with you. But I think for me personally, and what it's meant to me is it's taught me that what matters to me is not finishing the album as much as I like to put a bow on it and button it up and go, okay, I'm not going to change it anymore because I don't know if I'm making it better or worse or just different. I'm just going to, put it out. What's changed is sometimes at the end of writing a large chunk of music, there may be a gap where I'm not writing a ton, and that goes back to Kilo and the well thing. And all of those kind of factor in. And I realized over the last 4 or 5 years, I want to be writing. Right. When I finish is when I'm not writing. And so I think that what it's done, not necessarily in an emotional way, is reminded me that to fill up my time making music is the goal.
That's awesome.
Not the riches.
Do you have plans for new albums, or have you already started a new album that we have yet to hear? Let us into the journey. Let us know.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah. So when I was younger and studied, I had a great music teacher or songwriter teacher that would talk about this idea of when you're writing, you want to put everything together because I'm writing this song. Right. And so I'm writing this and now I just had this idea and I put it in there, and he goes, they don't always go together because the ideas that are coming out could be good ideas, but they're not married. They don't make sense. And so, there's always songs that I just don't use. So after the digital life, I was I'm going to take a different approach, and I'm going to write an album, and I'm going to work the music, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to see what I can do lyrically with it. And that whole album is just sat there. I mean, it's an hour of music written, and not one word has been written because that approach didn't necessarily work. So it sits there in the back burner, and I may use bits and pieces of it if it feels like it actually belongs to what I'm working on.
I never give up on that, though, because the thing I was talking about, Jed's Now, where it's not even in a key, Bob wrote that a long time ago, right, Bob?
Oh, yeah, probably. That was that was D-Vibe, so that was probably a year ago, maybe, something like that.
Oh, well, some of the things we're working with now,
some of them are really old,
years ago.
Yeah, some 10 years old,
So he never thought it would come out, and he always said to me, I never even thought anything was going to happen. Now we're making trap or whatever we're doing. And it's you never know where those creative things that you've already made are going to end up coming out.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's the best.
Into life.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I might release in the course of a year, since I've been the Static Dive, right? Because before I was Bob Smith, and I was Shoe, and I was the Distractions, other bands and stuff. But since I've been the Static Dive, right? I've been doing basically I just do a bunch of singles. We're working on an album now, but I've been doing singles, about maybe say 8 to 10 singles a year. But for every song that I release, there are at least 30 ideas or completed songs that never see the light of day. You know, I mean, tons. I'm constantly writing. So, and that's what Keelo's getting at. Is like, now I save everything because I'm a nerd and everything's chronicled and categorized, and I know where to find it. And now that I'm working with Keelo, all those things, all these random whack ass ideas that I made like 6 months ago, a year ago, 10 years ago, I planned like these playlists for Keelo, and he's going, I like that one. And I'm like, that's some weird shit I did in my basement 10 years ago. It's all yours. It's all yours, man. And that's, and now it's going to be a rap song or something. It's fantastic. So
the beauty of collab though, bro. Like, once you get more than one perspective on something, like I hear a guitar track of his and I'm like, I'm gonna put it to a beat that's like a song that, who did I say it was? That like Post Malone would rap on, right? Yeah. But he probably 10 years ago, Post Malone didn't even think he was.
Post Malone was in high school 10 years ago.
Right. He was doing that weird ass rap music video that everybody makes fun of.
Right.
You know, but what I'm getting at is like my mind saw that as something completely different, and that's the beauty of collabing with other artists.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
Yeah, I think a lot of people they want to collaborate, but then they realize, or they don't realize, that they don't want to collaborate. They want people at their disposal.
Yeah.
But real collaboration is like realizing and respecting the artist in you and going, I want to see what you bring to it without me telling you what to bring to it.
That's
when you mesh together the right people, oh man, the sum of the parts is
art of being an artist is detaching yourself from the work, right? And like I've said on our program before, like my dad told me a long time ago, don't write the song for your sake, don't write the song for the audience's sake, write it for the song's sake, right? And that is the most Buddhist thing my dad has ever said. Well, no, it's not, but it's a one that I quote often. But it's like you have to detach yourself to be able to collab properly or even make good music. You have to take you away from the music, right? Yeah. This is not my identity. This song does not determine whether I like myself or not. But it's a hard pill to swallow. It's like, because I remember when my mentor B-Sides a few years ago, like I was working on one track and it was like my first good EDM track, and I thought it was like the best thing I'd ever write ever and the best thing I did write and stuff. And he sat me down in a mentor session once and he goes, bro, it's fucking done. Like he literally said to me, do not bring this song back to me next week. It's fucking done. Yeah. And I actually cried out, not like, I mean, maybe like a bitch, but I cried afterwards, like out in the parking lot, because I was like, but I still want to work on it.
Right? That's my baby. Yeah.
But he was right. I've never put that song out. Like literally, never released that song.
It was the most important thing for however long you worked on it, and then it ceased to exist after that.
Right, because it was so personal, it was so attached that then when you start putting the spotlight effect that we do to ourselves, scrutinizing ourselves and seeing things people don't even notice, once you put that onto your own music, you're never going to finish it, because then every minute little thing must be perfect. And what if I try this down? And what if I do that? On the other side of the coin is what we were talking about, which is being in the flow, where you're like, I don't give a shit. Like, I'm just putting things places, and if it sounds right, it's cool. You know, and I think that's really the sign of being a mature artist, is being able to take you away. Like, yes, my name is on it when it comes out, but am I that song? No. Does my worth, does my self-worth come from whether every single motherfucker that listens to this song likes it? No. But for some people, it does.
See,
absolutely.
I
a lot of people. Oh, go ahead, Bob.
Oh, I was just going to say, real quick, I always just say that nothing is sacred. You know, when I make
that's a great way to put it.
Right. If I write a little idea, it's not some, you know, it might be a beautiful piece of music, but it's not sacred. It is just, it's a Zen seed, right? It's the beginning of an idea. And I'm working with this other brilliant mind. So I'm going to give this seed over to you and say, okay, man, take it, go for it, run with it, do whatever the hell you want with it. You know, that's what I mean.
That really reminds me of the Q&A that I went to with this artist named Dioro. He's a house artist. And he was talking about, like, the Zen practices where you make the I think it's called a mandala. Like the monasteries, they'll make the mandala in the morning and during the day, and then they'll sweep it away because it's colored sand.
It's amazing.
And so what he does is he'll produce a whole song, mix, master, produce it, and then delete it. And I'm just like, what? Huh?
That is a very strong,
that's
strong
a bit
example there.
But he does great work. He did the song, I think it's called 48 Hours. Like, he does great stuff. But the point of being able to, that's how strongly I think he feels of the fact of detaching yourself from your own art.
Right.
Sure.
I can just push delete after I spent all that time working on it.
Yeah, it is very much like the mandala because the monks will sit around silently and work on putting the colored sand. And some of these things are just the most beautiful, beautiful artwork you've ever seen. And then take it to the river and sweep it off and do it again.
Right?
Wild.
Yeah, it's far out.
Because to alleviate yourself from the suffering that we've talked about, or the life is shit that I've talked about, is you have to detach yourself from result. Right? Expectation and result is what leads to suffering, not anything that's happening right this second. Because I'm in a great mood and I'm, just chilling. Like, I'm not worried about who's going to watch this program that's watching it right now, as I mentioned, like that. But I listen to the program. So it's like, if I had that mindset of like, I got to say everything properly, I got to say it perfectly, this would not be a fun show to listen to because I probably say nothing.
Right. Yeah, right.
I just sit like, that's one thing to say, say that. So this detachment is, if any of you out there are into that kind of stuff that we're talking about right now, if you're not, that's cool too. Just being able to detach from a desired result is really, I think, what we're
it's important not to think that detachment somehow is counter to your emotional investment in it. It's not. You're entirely invested in what you create, but you aren't going to get your worth from it.
Right.
It is not something that can change your value or the value of the actual song.
And then you do great shit and just do great shit, and you just do it for its sake. You don't. It's awesome. It's a great feeling to be able to do that. So.
Yeah, that this entire conversation reminds me of something, Noah, you said earlier, how on the Unnamed Road you had you kind of developed this mantra, this regretful sort of mantra where like nothing stays, this sort of Robert Frost idea, nothing gold can stay, right? There's that the idea that, the reality that all the things that we love, not just you, all of us, everything in the universe is impermanent, is temporary, and will either go away or change, right?
Yeah. And
so that mandala analogy and that the whole idea of the result is not the goal, and the what comes of the music is not really the joy that we should pull from it, but actually just the process of creating it and making it and living it and being it, at that moment. And
of course, all of this sounds great, and it's very hard to do. People watch this and they go, why? How is this possible? It's not always possible. If you write something you pour yourself into and someone just takes a deuce on it, that can be really hurtful. It can be painful.
Well, if enlightenment, right, spiritual, emotional, intellectual enlightenment was an actual destination, right? Then monks, like Tibetan monks, the Dalai Lama wouldn't bother meditating every day.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Why would he? He's already there, but he does because he needs to. It's not easy, and you got to constantly bring yourself back.
Technically, everybody, just excuse me. It is a destination, but the destination is now. That's why you meditate, because now is the destination, right? This second, and now this second, right? But when we live in our lives, we live in the past and the future. We go, why did I just say that? And are people gonna like it?
Right.
Just talking about our show, right? Like I could be thinking like that, but the destination is right this moment, and if you're in this moment never goes away because it's always this moment.
Sure. And the Buddha talked about it directly. He said that excessive thoughts of the past will bring regret, and excessive thoughts of the future will bring worry.
Right.
And it's not that we don't think about those things. It's just that they don't have emotional power over us because they're only in our mind. They are certainly things we need. If I didn't learn from my past, then I would be doomed to repeat it. But that doesn't mean I have to carry the emotional weight of my past. The lesson's been learned. I can let it go. And the lesson stays in there, which is, I think, a critical thing.
Well, another way to explain it to people listening, like the past brings depression and the future brings anxiety, right? So if you can neutralize those thoughts, you can really help your mental health. Obviously, if you're depressed, please go get help, get medicine, talk to a doctor. But if you're just like us, where like sometimes you're like, what the fuck? Why do I feel that bad? Or why am I stressed out? Think about, are you in the moment right now? Are you right here, right now, doing the thing? Because you're breathing. I learned how important breathing was when my lung collapsed in the hospital, right? When I'm laying there with the very, very attractive nurse came in, and I was happy about that. So I wasn't super
right on. That's living in the moment, baby.
Right?
No, truly, that is what I was thinking. But because I was like, how can I get her to come back? And then my lung was like, why don't we just pop and then she'll come back? But anyways, I learned how awesome breath is when you don't have it anymore. You realize that it's there all the time. And what I'm saying is, if you're listening to this program right now, you're alive. So this moment isn't the worst thing in the world because you're near internet somehow and you're not dead. And if if someone had a gun to your head, I don't think you'd be listening to our program unless they're making you do it, which I don't suggest anyone do that either. But, so being this nowness is really now. And that's.
The projection of what we want to happen or what we wish we could keep happening, because the joy can also be the poison. It can be very dangerous if we think that we can hold it and keep it. And then that is extremely disappointing when it disappears. I used to make an analogy with some of the younger people I worked with. If you imagine that you're up in the car and it's like 4 a.m. and you're driving in the middle of nowhere and you've got 3 hours ahead of you, imagine the end of it is a funeral for a loved one. And then imagine the end is an amusement park. And what has happened in the drive any different? What's changed except the expectation of what's to come that then colors everything. And music and art is that way. I expect to release this and X, Y, and Z will happen. Right. And when they don't, it negatively affects the art.
It may exceed your expectations. I try to tell kids this all the time. It may exceed your expectations or it may not be as big as your expectations, but you are never going to get it right.
Right.
So why worry about it?
We're all bad weathermen. We're all terrible weathermen,
Right, exactly.
I've enjoyed this conversation a great deal, and I'll tell you that before I'll be honest though, but before we did this earlier today or yesterday, whenever Keela and I talk like all the time, so we were talking earlier today and last night about this, and I had said not with any concern or trepidation, but just curiosity. I was like, we're gonna have this conversation with. It's basically two guys that have very directly faced their mortality and dealt with the reality of life and death in the most real way you can.
Right.
And and I just kind of curious as to where it was going to go. You know what I mean? Not worried, just kind of curious. And,
sure.
And Keelan pointed out to me, he's like, dude, we're all dying. He's like, everybody's
always bringing the bright side.
Exactly. We're all dying. So get over that part of it. And he's right. And the beautiful thing about the conversation is really, if anybody wants, I mean, you could market this episode as like, Kilo and Bob talked to Noah Avery about death, and it's not at all what we did. You know what I mean?
But then everyone will click on it.
Exactly.
Right. Put it on there.
But yeah, and they'll be disappointed to find that it's an hour-long conversation about the beauty of art and life and Buddhism and living the moment and being Zen, and it's fantastic.
Yep.
It's really great. Really great.
Everything is perspective. You don't have the sweet without the salty, and life doesn't have the vibrancy if you don't have that unfortunate end always looming.
That's right.
It makes it precious,
That's beautiful.
And I think you mentioned earlier, like, that happiness is a waning thing, right? Just a moment ago. And one thing I wanted to touch on before we get away from that was, in my bad times, I always like to go, well, the good things never last, so the bad thing must never last too.
Right.
And no one wants to fucking see that. I mean, these are things I tell people in my everyday life and people just refuse to accept it. It's like, if that awesome, great feeling you got when you first got in that relationship or that new job or that new car goes away, don't you think this shit turd feeling is going to go away as well sometime? It's the same thing. It's just the other side of the coin.
And it's very tricky because the one way is easy. Right. This will pass. I'm going to make it. The other way is hard. And that's where the real learning and like the weight training happens, is when the best things are right in front of you and you go, this is wonderful, but it is going to pass. And you know it as it happens without letting it, bum you out and everyone that you know. But that's what gives you the actual balance.
Right.
Well, it's kind of like a sine wave in music, right? It's like sine waves are a wave because it has a peak and a valley, right? And life, I'm going to go back really far in my life for this story, you guys, and I don't know what anyone's going to think of it. When I was going to like a group therapy thing as a kid, that one of the last sessions, they were like drawing on this whiteboard in the group, and they were talking about how like most of you live like you're in a wave pool, blah, blah. And then they were like, you need to live like you're in the kiddie pool. And they drew like a line. And they were like, don't have really big ups and you won't have really big downs. I literally raised my hand. And I said, I would rather have those downs to be able to have those ups than live like I'm in a child's fucking kiddie pool. I'm okay with accepting these shitty times, to have those times like this conversation right now. Great time.
And vice versa. I'm willing to know those big highs and love and really committing to someone or something, knowing that the opposite, and this is a Bob thing with your Taoist philosophy, it's the opposite is inherently already contained in it.
Well,
that's exactly it. Right on. That's exactly
if there's one notion in the universe that I literally believe is fact, because I talk a lot about stuff and I say, in my opinion. This, I don't think is my opinion. I think everything has an opposite. I don't think anything exists without its opposite. And for that matter, that means you must have those down or negative moments and thoughts in your mind to have the great joys of life. I am a very, very happy person now. And I searched for years, meditating, reading, listening to Alan Watts every day, just trying to find enlightenment or whatever you want to call it. And then the moment when I almost died and I realized life is a shit turd, then suddenly, really no. It was
I'm with
you. I felt a level of pain because like in Zen Buddhism, if you know a higher level of suffering, then littler sufferings, not so bad. It's like I would rather have those moments where I'm laying in the hospital thinking I'm going to die and then laying in a bed for 2 years not being able to drive a car at all, to have these moments where I just can literally be happy and I don't have to search for it.
Most of the well-known prophets from all the different spiritual traditions have a very similar story of rock bottom is when the transformation or realization happens, when the suffering almost kills you, but it doesn't. That's when you've come to life.
Right.
And they all go through that desperately deep, dark time. And then come out and teach.
And
I could tell a story about
Please do.
Well, I won't tell too much of it because I won't probably ever. But there is a story about skinny little guitar player who found himself the drunk tank in New Orleans one day, and then came out of that and said, "All right, I'm going to go the other direction now."
Right.
So that's whether and I don't mean to say it sound like an AA meeting because I don't go to those anyway. So that's not what I'm talking about. But there is that rock bottom, and that's what you're talking about. That and I'm telling you that whatever gets you to rock bottom, whether it's a personal relationship or an addiction or just a series of bad choices or all of the above.
Everything for everybody.
Exactly. And then in the end, you I don't know. Well, that is you're there, and that appreciation of being here is very real. Yeah, that's what I'm getting at, really. So anyway, yes, I agree, and I've been there, and I'm really happy. So rock on.
Absolutely.
And we're all sitting here so happy telling all these horribly dark stories.
I know,
right? I hope that's helping our viewers realize we all go through shit. I feel like the universe or life or whatever you believe in is kind of like Oprah of the universe. It's like you get a shit turn and you get a problem and you get a suffering. One for you and one for you. But like we were saying, once I realized, life just sucks for everybody, then the people who do not find the enlightenment that we three have are the people who play the victim in their mind. And they don't go, you know what? It's not that life fucking hates me. And I don't literally mean everybody that's listening that life is like that, right? I'm just putting into your head like everybody suffered. No one may. Let me just say this quote that I have no idea where it came from. Nobody makes it out of life alive. Like you don't, right? It's gonna beat you down. It's gonna wear you down. But when you realize it's not just wearing you down, it's wearing us all down, then suddenly we're all in the same boat.
You're dropping some Jim Morrison wisdom there that no one gets out alive,
Is he the lizard man? Are you the lizard king?
I have no idea. I'm just making this shit up.
Jim Morrison in a Doors song, Jim Morrison said, he has that no one gets out alive, Well,
I do feel, but
and he was the lizard king and he could do anything.
That, it's just like, right. And that's probably why, because he realized like, this is not an unfair game. People say to me especially, and because I'm in a wheelchair, they're like, life is not fair. And I go, no, life is 100% fair because it's unfair to everybody, not just me,
equally
not
unfair.
Just you.
Right.
Because with my problem, people can see it on the surface, right? They see me, immediately know my suffering or some of my suffering. With other people, you both, like if I met you on the street, Noah, like I would not go, oh, he's battling a terminal illness.
Right.
And the thing is, we go through life and we just see people for their surface level suffering, and we think, well,
that asshole cut me off or whatever.
Exactly.
But if I look at your studio and it's awesome setup and stuff, I'd be like, dude, your life is not me, but people would be like, his life must be perfect.
Sure.
Blah 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 blah. It's not like that, guys. Like
life is life for everybody.
Hard for everybody, so it's fair. It is fair because it's for everybody.
Absolutely.
There you go. All right.
Anyways,
we should
triple Zen wisdom now.
There you go. We are definitely dangerously close to being a 2-part episode. So we probably
it already is. I've been looking at the clock. Don't worry. As our viewers already know, this is a 2-part episode.
That's cool. That's cool.
Of course.
I'm good with that. But even so, we don't make it a 3-part episode. We should a little bit back to our.
Do that. Yeah, is there any? We like to do this at the end. We do 2 things at the end. So we're gonna let you say anything you would like to say, and then we're gonna go, and we're gonna all. It's like a round robin. We're gonna each ask a question. One of the hosts is gonna ask a question about your industry, which is music, and one is gonna ask a random ass whatever question. and then you get to ask a question, and all three of us have to answer it. So that's what we do last, and that's my favorite part of the show, as our guests or listeners know. But at this point, is there anything else you'd like to say, Noah? Anything at all? Literally anything. You can just say the word purple if you want. That's an acceptable answer.
Oh, man. I say how lucky I feel to be able to literally sit in my tiny office and have a conversation like this. That is part of my life. You know, the same as making music. It's such a gift to be given any times of comfort or joy.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's just a wonderful thing, and I'm glad to be here. And it fuels the next round of inspiration.
We feel so blessed to have you. We weren't sure if you were going to say yes. At least Bob said to me, I'm not sure if he's going to say yes, but I'm going to ask him anyways. And I was really excited when you did, because I was
of course.
This is going to be a lot of things I opened up to in this episode, Bob will definitely say it's true. I don't talk about. I talk about with him. I haven't talked about on the show. But with you, it just, it's like, you feel me. You feel that aspect of life that I luckily have escaped for the time being, where no one's going to escape it. Right. But thank you so much for being on here and letting the audience kind of get some of this knowledge that I have suffered my way into in my life.
It's my pleasure, truly.
Right on.
So, okay, now to the fun and great part of the show that
I'm ready.
Fast forwarded to and missed all the then wisdom that you just missed. Go ahead, Bob. I think I'm probably going to ask the
non-music phrase. Okay. Yeah, sure. That's cool. Yeah. So what Keelo's talking about is that when we do this, he and I usually split it up. One of us asks the personal question. The other asks the sort of music question. We say the industry question, but it could be anything about music. So I'll be asking the music question, right?
Right.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So I did actually have, I'm glad you said that, because I had the music question prepared. I don't know if you're going to be able to answer it, Keelo, because you're just not, because you'll see what I'm saying. Well,
I can't walk. That's what it means.
I would never say it.
What is your favorite beach to go walk on to then write music? I don't know, bro. I wouldn't know.
You're right. I just became an asshole. No.
I just in this moment became an asshole.
No, that's not what I meant. It's about Pink Floyd. I don't know how big of a Pink Floyd fan you are. You and I don't talk about Pink Floyd a lot. That's all. So anyway, but Noah and I actually, not just that Noah's music sounds like I believe sounds a bit like Roger Waters. I know that he's a fan, and he and I have had conversations via email and like Facebook about our history of Pink Floyd, and in my case anyway, I'm a huge Roger Waters fan. I love Roger Waters.
Absolutely.
So and I'm definitely, if you are Pink Floyd fans out there, and I touched on it a little bit before, you land on one side or the other as a Pink Floyd fan. I mean, I love David Gilmour's guitar playing. Don't get me wrong. He's a phenomenal guitar
voice.
Player. And he's a great singer, great guitar player. But Roger Waters is the brain of that band. And, and that's why the Pink Floyd's music basically sucked after Roger Waters left, because, so Syd Barrett was the genius and the insane genius, and he left and he didn't do well. And then Roger Waters was basically driving force for most of all of the important years of that band of Pink Floyd.
Sure.
And so anyway, what I'm getting at is, what is your favorite Roger Waters album? And when I say that, I don't mean Roger Waters solo album. I mean Roger Waters album, right? So like, for instance, the Final Cut counts as much as Radio Chaos, the Final Cut's a Pink Floyd album, and Radio, because but Piper at the Gates of Dawn does not count, because that's a Syd album. All right.
I'm with you.
So what's your favorite Roger Waters album?
Oh man, I could talk about this forever. I would have to probably go to, first of all, his new album is great. Man. Really? I forget what it's called. I mean, it's a few years now, but that's new for an 80-year-old.
Right.
I kind of have two thoughts. I think my personal favorite would be the Pros and Cons of hitchhiking. I just love it because it's abstract storytelling, and it's just pure Roger Waters. And the lineup on the album is insane.
Right.
I mean, it's like Eric Clapton playing guitar, David Sanborn on sax. So it's pretty out there. And I didn't get to see the staging of it, but I know that would have been pretty fun. If you don't know the album, anyone watching, it's like his kind of snapshot dream sequence. Each song has a time, and it's like going through the night as he comes in and out of his dream and weaves you through it.
He dreams of being a hitchhiker, picking up a hitchhiker, and then he goes and moves to.
And then it's got all the classic sex and drugs in Wyoming. But I also think musically, like on a different way to think, Amused to Death is absolutely stunningly brilliant. It is. It is profoundly good.
I'll admit that I wrongfully so. I should listen to more of the more recent stuff, right? So because I think I still think of Radio Chaos as one of his newer albums. It's like 40 years old, you know?
Right.
But your first answer, by the way, was the correct answer.
Thank you.
Thank you. The correct answer we were looking for.
Pros and Cons of Hitchhiking is the best.
And I do have the initial LP release with the unedited hitchhiking ass on the front.
Because on the cover of the album is a naked hitchhiker, and for they put a little black what are those censored things over her ass. So you've got the original one without the censored ass.
Oh yeah, warts and all. I mean, you can see it all.
Well, then I picked that album. The one with the ass on it. That's the best one for sure.
All right.
Absolutely.
No, but Bob got it right. It is as if you were talking about running a marathon to me. Like, I didn't know there were different guitar players or anything. So you're right, Bob. Good job.
Well,
No, the one with the ass. There's the answer. Okay.
All right.
Correct.
My turn. Okay, now this question can be taken as lightly or darkly as any of us want to take it. And I'm going to go here, Bob. What is the meaning of life?
Hey, wow. Okay.
There you go.
Who answers first? Noah?
Our guest has to answer.
Okay.
First.
Oh, my God. The meaning of life. Well,
hey.
There you go. Right on, man. You can ask anything you want. That's a tough one. That's for sure.
That is a tough one.
Life to you. How about that? It doesn't have to be the correct answer. We're not solving the universe right now.
Right. Unless we are.
We might have. You never know.
I guess where I'm at now, the meaning of my life is to only bring joy and neutral feelings to others, to not bring pain and negative feelings into people's life. So I guess the meaning of my life is to be a positive moment in someone's life, their experience, their little trip through, Yeah. I don't want to be the guy that's a drag.
Well,
but I think
this guest of being a drag that we've ever had. 0%. Everything has been bubbly and fun. So,
you're successful today. If your goal is to be a positive force in people's lives,
it's been great.
You accomplished that goal today, my friend.
Well, thank you.
Right
or
on.
whatever day this person is listening to this episode.
Right.
If you're listening to this, he was successful.
That's right.
What about you, Bob?
I don't know. I guess. Well, I like this question. It was funny. The first thing I asked. So when I was in high school, when I was probably before I got the job at the record store, so I was like 16. I worked at Caldor, which is a department store. I don't know if they were everywhere, but they were I live upstate New York. Anyway, I worked at Caldor, and this guy I was 16. This guy I was friends with, who was 19. He and I we were like, I don't know, maintenance men or something. We were going around with a ladder, fixing lights or something. While he was climbing up the ladder, he looks down. He's like, "What are you thinking about?" And I was like, "Contemplating the meaning of life." He said, and he just looks down at me. He goes, "Beer and barbecues," and then starts fixing the light again. And I always love that answer, beer and barbecue. And the funny thing is, I don't drink and I'm a vegan. So I, so I don't actually get to do any of the, but the point is that whether he meant it or not, as a drunken hippie 19-year-old lunatic, right. But the point is that, right? Is that being present at the moment in that beer, at that barbecue, drinking your beer, talking to your family and friends, and being a positive force in their lives and be existing, then that's the whole thing. I think it's just being present. And again, to your point, Noah, I think both Noah and Kilo made the point earlier, none of us have this sorted out. I'm talking about things I'm learning today and every day. You know what I mean? Like I haven't figured out how to be present all the time. I'm bad at it most of the time. I'm trying to be better at being present for other people, and whether you're talking to them in person on the phone or whatever, and just remembering like, oh, I gotta be there, and it's tough. It is tough. But I think that is what it's about. And I think that connecting with other humans is what it's about. So, there you go.
Right on. And barbecue.
And barbecue.
I guess my answer is going to be as dumb as your answer. I think the meaning of life is as important as my headphones that I wear on the show that are not even plugged in at all, ever. Right? Like, I think that like having a meaning for life is an illusion that we have to give ourselves to survive. But in reality, all it is the journey, right? Like I've said this before, maybe on the show, I don't know. But like the quote, like the journey is more important than the destination, in my opinion, is what it is all about, right? It's about experiencing experiences. And you'll be able to talk to us, next week or next month or whatever about this episode when it comes out, and like we'll laugh about silly things we said. And I feel like as a being, the meaning of it is to have those experiences and those connections with people and with movies and with music and with food and with, and we have it all around us all the time, and just being able to be like, wow, I don't need to search for anything. This is it. It's literally right now. It's it. This is it. That's the meaning. It's just this moment. I guess I'm saying the same thing as Bob. This moment is the meaning.
I guess we're all right. I guess all three of us are right then, if we're all.
Hey, good job, everybody.
Now, Noah, you get to ask a question. It doesn't have to be music related, or it can be, or
anything you want.
But you also have to answer it, so be careful.
Yeah. We all answer.
I'll do an easy one.
All right.
What is? Yeah, oh God, man, meaning of life? I don't think I can top it. What is both of you guys' guilty music pleasure that has somehow actually impacted you? Something you like that you don't like to admit?
Oh, that's funny. Go ahead, Bob. You go first.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that the hardest part of answering that question is you don't like to admit thing. Like I'm very nerdy and corny and don't care. And you know what I mean? So like, I love Neil Diamond, for instance. Neil Diamond's a freaking brilliant songwriter. He's one of the greatest songwriters of all time. He's the cheese ball, and everybody knows it. You know what I mean? Oh yeah, I said, but it's great shit, So yeah, I'll say Neil Diamond because I love him.
Perfect.
It's why I laughed when you asked the question. It's actually part of a conversation me and Bob had earlier today, because we were talking about where you were from, and I was talking about a wonderful band that I love from Las Vegas, The Killers, right? And Bob was explaining that it said you either are someone that likes the Killers or someone that lies about not liking the Killers.
Yeah, there are two kinds of. It was a DJ on the radio said it. It said there are two kinds of people in the world: Killers fans and people that lie and say they don't like the Killers.
Right. But it's funny we say this because nowadays I don't mind admitting that I fucking love that band. It's a very guilty pleasure of mine that just like that band just does it for me. They're just so good. But back in the day when I was in high school, I would not ever have admitted that. I would be like, no, No, but secretively, I'm listening to it like in my headphones when I'm talking to them, saying I don't want to listen to them.
Great.
So that is absolutely my answer. The Killers, even though they're fan-fucking-tastic, they have a song where the top line vocal melody is one note. You guys know that, right? Yet we don't realize it because his rhythm behind that one note is perfect. It's like a rap song where the rhythm is dictating the track.
Somebody told me that I had a boyfriend, and I had a girlfriend last year. Yeah, right. That's a great song.
We nailed it. Yeah, we need to karaoke. We can win.
Right.
So that's my answer. What about you, Noah?
I'm not actually that guilty, kind of like Bob, but I'm a huge Prince fan.
Oh,
I like the I like the funk. I like the.
What do you think? I got a purple light going on here, man.
Piano.
Oh my God, I worship at the altar of Prince. I love him.
Oh yeah.
Oh Jesus.
Yeah, so that's not good. That's not a guilty one, but that's probably one that most people wouldn't guess.
I think mine wasn't really a guilty one anymore. I'm proud of being guilty now because they're talented. I think what's funny is all of our answers, if you make music and you're listening right now, you're like, those are normal fucking answers. Right? But to us, at some point in our life, someone told us they were cool,
cheesy.
So we can't like it. And it's like, no, fuck it. I love Prince. I would never have thought of Prince as a guilty pleasure because it's like, that man is amazing, right?
Yeah.
To me, like Michael Jackson. Like, who would say Michael Jackson is a guilty pleasure? It's just a pleasure. That's it.
Yeah.
You know,
that's a good point, though. I remember when I was a kid, I was like, I don't know, like 12, 13 years. I've always been in music and I've always loved Prince. Right? I remember and you know, I'm old. So like this, you know, this is like early 80s that I got my Walkman on. And I remember walking along with my friends and I'm like dancing and singing and like, you know, and they're like, what the hell's wrong with you? You know what I mean? Because we're a bunch of 12-year-old boys. They're like, what are you doing? You know, and I'm like, I'm listening to Prince. They're like, he's gay. Okay, first of all, you know,
I have the tape player that's like the rectangle with the handle that pulls out.
Yeah. That's
with the headphones, walking around listening to Prince.
But I remember that. I always remember that, like being shamed for liking Prince, which was the dumbest thing. You know
and
what I mean?
That's the same with me and the Killers. That people would make me feel stupid because we made metal music and I don't know why I air quoted metal music. We made very much.
I thought you were just starting to play a little.
Right. No, sure. That's my excuse now. But it's like you go into that environment where you're in high school and you play death metal music and you say you like the Killers. Yeah, they're going to say the same thing. They're gay. And it's like, I don't care. Now as an adult, I'm like, I don't care. That is good quality music.
Which is also the most asinine insult to anything.
Right, exactly. Come on, dude.
Yeah, really.
It's great music. It's great. Anyways, it was great having you, Noah. I'm very glad.
Thanks, man.
And I'm sure we'll have all the links below so you guys can go check out his music. After you listen to the program, go check Noah's music out and support him and hear the good vibes and maybe even comment on stuff and see if you can pick which songs have the binaural beats in it and which songs don't. We did not give away the secret.
There you go.
There it is. All right. Hey, Bob, it's great to meet you face to face. And Kilo, same.
Yeah, bro.
Absolutely. Yeah, so don't hang up right away. We'll say goodbye to everybody. But I wanted to ask you a question, though, that's not relevant to the show.
Now because everybody else just hung up on us.
Goodbye, everybody. It's normal.
And they're like, peace, bye.
Yeah, right.
Bye, Felicia. Come on, bro.
All right. Well, hey, I will say goodbye to the viewers here, everybody. Thank you so much. And listeners, thanks for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you're watching us on YouTube, hit the big red button. If you're on a podcast, just, click whatever button you're looking at.
Click the button.
Be our friends, for God's sake. All right. So anyway, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Noah, and rock on, everybody. Have a great whatever part of day you're having. So.
Hey, let's take a minute.